Action Comics 1075. Mark Waid writing with Clayton Henry and Michael Shelfer on the art. So, uh, Clark is in Krypton in the past. He was arrested with his parents last issue. That was kind of like where that wrapped up. And this issue, we kind of see mostly what we expected to see, which is they're going to use the Phantom Zone projector to imprison people. That's not Jor-El's idea. Superman's kind of like relieved by this and says, you know what, I think I like my father more than I thought I did. So that's the whole thing. We also find out the Roseanne, the guy that took it in the first place, he's apparently been a petty bitch because he wanted Lara for himself all those years ago.
All this is teaching me is that all those years writing Archie, Mark Waid can write messy relationships really well. You know, because this all felt very, very kind of soap opera-y, but in a good way. Like, that seems like I'm denigrating it. I'm not, but yeah, the whole...
Yeah, well, it's very strategic, though, because like we find out after the fact that this whole outburst she has is just to distract him so that Jor-El can steal the bracelets back for Clark. So it's like, oh, hey, we were helping you because you should, these are yours. You shouldn't be giving your stuff up as well. Right. So it's a nice little moment in that sense.
Yeah, and we find out, too, that Krypton before the Phantom Zone was just launching criminals into cryogenic space, you know? So this is kind of just their thing that they do. Is they
yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I feel like I've seen that before.
Yeah, but it's just like, instead of rehabilitating the criminals, they just get them off the planet. And now they found this new place they can send them that's not space, you know? So, you know, it's just showing the faults of Krypton even more, which I enjoy.
I mean, I hate to bring it up, but isn't that technically what they did in Zack Snyder's quintessential Man of Steel? They just sort of launched them out of space. I think maybe they went into a big portal in the sky, so they weren't in Phantom Zone. But...
Yeah, it was more that they were exiled more than anything, and that's how they make their way back to Earth.
Yeah, but they froze them though. They put them in these like tomb things and.
I guess so.
Shut them up.
I try not to think about the movie. I know that's surprising to you, Pete. I try not to think about
the movie.
I
mean, by all means, don't think about it. But I'm just the visual of them getting fired up in these sarcophagus-looking things is a lot like what they're describing here with the.
True, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. So which I'm not crediting that movie with that. It just means that idea came from before. is what I'm saying. So yeah, there's more stuff with Keenan and
Don't say
Connor.
Keenan and Con. That's what we're calling.
That's almost what I said. I almost said Keenan. Is it not Keenan and Con? No, that's not right. Here it goes. So yeah, basically, I mean, I don't know what to say about this subplot anymore, other than just the Kun guy's not playing ball. Connor uses his tactile telekinesis to spin him around, and they basically pick a fight and get beamed up to the main ship to talk to the Admiral, the one in charge of the Kuns, and Connor decides that, hey, I'll challenge you, and if I win, I get control of the fleet, since this is how your system works. So that's where we leave off with that. There's more fun bickering between the two characters, though, that I enjoyed. Like, I don't want to downplay it. It's just, it's so formulaic that we get, these like 3 or 4 pages of this subplot in the middle of each issue.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
Like you said last week, it's a backup in the middle of the story.
It really is. Yeah. It absolutely is.
But yeah, it's very silly. I do like how cartoony it is compared to the stuff that Clark's going through. So, you know, it's a nice tonal shift.
Yeah, we already talked really about what happens with the main story, but you know, I'll just mention, we get kind of the classic big floating heads in the judgment chamber, whatever they're calling it. They particularly do the whole silence thing, which I mean, again, I don't know if that originally came from an old comic book or it's just something that, because the original movie did it, that is something that they've brought in to the comics from then, because everyone remembers that. But it was, it was all nicely done. For what it was. I guess the bigger thing really here is that Jor-El says, hey, I think my brother might be able to help with this. So they go and see Zor-El. And who do we see but, adolescent Kara sitting there misbehaving and just saying bored when Zor-El tells you to do something. And Clark just has a little flashback to Kara saying to him when they were flying together, I was a very well-behaved child on Krypton, and he's like, oh, she's never going to hear the end of this if I get back. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, no, she's acting like a little kid, which, you know, I do like, because everyone's memory of themselves as a kid is always in the most bright, shining light. So, you know, it's real funny.
But notably, she like doesn't seem to ever actually look over at where Clark's standing. Not that she would recognize him, obviously.
No.
But it is funny to think though that like she might have like when she arrives on Earth later, she might have recognized Superman if she'd had a good look at him here. But it doesn't seem like she ever did get a good look at him. Maybe Clark's going to bring this up and be like, "Hey, don't you remember one day some guy came with your uncle over to the house and talked about these bracelets?"
Do you know what I went through? I don't remember much daily life stuff, right?
Dear. But yeah, good stuff. However, Clark starts asking him, "Hey, in theory, right? Maybe, is it possible, you know, someday that the Phantom Zone might not just be like a phantom like realm and might turn into a solid place with matter and land and, you know, atmosphere and blah blah blah." And Jor-El starts explaining, well, technically it could, but I don't expect it'll ever happen because I tried to do it. And I was able to create this one little ball, and it took so much energy. Like the power grid and the whole like city was out for like a week. Like it would take so much energy to do this. And the big cliffhanger, because it starts sort of intercutting panels with Lois and Jimmy back on Earth here, is that seemingly because Aether is wanting to expand the Phantom Zone, apparently the energy it would take to do it would have to consume a sun, and seemingly our sun, Earth's sun, is being enveloped with his dark energy because he's going to use that to fuel his next Phantom Zone expansion. So now Earth is directly in danger, which makes sense. We're halfway through the story now, and this is the stakes going up because now, okay, this isn't just about saving the people in the Phantom Zone. Now everyone on Earth's in danger too. So
yeah, I mean, like, the whole solar system, right?
True, yeah. I mean,
it's the
yeah, but the rest of the planets are all empty. Ours is the important one.
Yes, I get that, but still, it's a galactic thing now.
Sure,
you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, because it was very ominous to see Aether, whatever we're calling him, as he's essentially executing people in the Phantom Zone, right, for being convicts and sociopaths and all this other stuff.
He's like, he's got them in like a concrete block, and then he crushes them. And obviously, you don't see it because it's not a R-rated comic book or anything, but you just see like a splitch sound effect on the page.
This is, you know, to think I came here to offer redemption. So yeah, so when he's been pulling stuff into material, you know, where else has he been pulling from? Right? Like,
yeah, it makes me think we're going to find out that there's an entire like galaxy that's dead now that used to be alive and thriving, but is gone because he's been doing this. So this was a fun cliffhanger. I think it was exactly the right part of this story to give us a big, huge cliffhanger, because not that they've not been good up until now, they've been solid, but this felt like a much bigger one than the rest of the ones we've had. So no, I like seeing Jor-El and Lara kind of stick up for their beliefs. I liked Clark being surprised by who his dad is, and I also appreciated the interaction with the young Kara. I got a good chuckle out of me. Plus the stakes seemed to be lifted at the end, so yeah, it was a pretty good chapter of the main story, I thought.
Yeah, and what Wade's doing with Jor-El about everything that Clark thought he knew is proving to be different, right? You know, because it's not just this cold type thing. And the fact that he goes, you know, I like the person my dad is. I thought that was a really good moment.
Yeah. So, yeah, main story, pretty good. Now we have the regular backup. And I say that because there's a second backup this issue all of a sudden, which I was not expecting. But yeah, the Supergirl story starts off with Power Girl on Earth with some of the other super characters basically saying, hey, Supergirl's been gone for a while. People aren't even mistaking me for her anymore. What's going on? And we see that Kara has the prisoner now with the robot, and she's taking him back to, well, not her ship because it's dead, but they're looking for a ship they can steal. And they find one that belongs to these alien prisoners, or these alien jailers, I should say. And, you know, this alien shows up and stops, says, hey, that property's been sold, like, hand them over. And Supergirl's like, nah. And then basically the prisoners, like, we get again this weird view on their mask of what looks like reality, like, breaking. It's almost like the glass is shattering. Now, his mask isn't actually shattering, but it's kind of like causing an effect, and everyone kind of seems to feel it. It's like They say she is causing some kind of fear. So the prisoner's a she, I guess. Sorry, I had forgotten that detail. But yeah, so it's like this. These waves are going out of fear, and it seems to have an effect on everyone. And it seems like Supergirl like has to or gets angry herself and uses her heat vision to like calm her down, or not even her heat vision. Sorry, that new power she seems to have right now, where she can like make people forget something. And it's interesting because the prisoner seems to like dart away and leave their cloak like in her hands, but when we see the prisoner like in the next panel, she looks scared. Like she doesn't look dangerous. She looks like she's like a terrified creature who's worried about the people around her. So you're thinking, okay, it feels like this should be more sympathetic. However, the cliffhanger at the end of the backup is that the robot's like, hey, I've been able to like figure out what the prisoner was charged with, like what they were put away for. And the robot says that the prisoner was charged as a destroyer of worlds. So whether or not the prisoner did it intentionally is unclear, but certainly this power they have might have destroyed an entire planet. Like maybe these like emotions or whatever they pump out just kind of like affected everyone on a planet until it all just tore itself apart, kind of thing.
Maybe, yeah. And I'm trying to figure out how Kara plays into this. Why exactly she's immune to this kind of stuff? Is it that new power? That's not what it feels like. You know?
I don't know if she's immune necessarily. I wonder if it's because she's lost the world and she remembers the world she lost. She'll tackle this with a different attitude than everyone else would.
Right. That makes sense.
That'd be my guess right now, anyway.
But yeah, but I do like how she disrupts this, the prisoner's power with her thing, and the way they show that in the art with the, those concentric circles that are coming from the prisoner, but with Kara they stop,
Yeah.
As and broken up, but yeah. So when we get that really nice last page that still plays with the concept of like the circles that we've gotten throughout this arc, so I thought that was a real fun layout as well.
Yeah. Especially since it's got kind of the prisoner's kind of like huddled up inside the circle, so it's got kind of like a baby in the womb kind of look to it overall. So that was good. Still enjoying this backup. Art is still very good, particularly when it is Supergirl in space. Things are looking really nice. And then the surprise backup by Joshua Williamson is basically a story of Perry having the jitters the night before the election, because he's running for mayor, of course, as we know from the other books. And it's basically just him going down memory lane and seeing like prominent moments in his past and then Superman's past in the city. And then ultimately bumps into Clark, talks about how the responsibility of going from reporting on the city to being actually responsible for the city is kind of a big change. He actually thanks Clark for the pep talk, but I laughed when he said that because he basically didn't let Clark speak. Clark said almost nothing that entire page. But Perry walks off as the dawn rises by ripping his shirt open like Superman to reveal a Perry Right for Mayor t-shirt. And the story ends with Lois coming in to say hello and Perry saying, "Don't you have a paper to put out?" And she says, "Yeah, here's the first edition." And the last page is Perry White wins. So seems like Perry White is now the mayor of Metropolis.
Yes, it's cool. I do like that this is called Memory Lane as well, because it is just him going through. It's a pretty nice story for Perry. He kind of gets lost in the shuffle sometimes. So just to see what the city used to mean to him and how he's interacted with it since, and now that we know that he's the mayor too.
Yeah.
It was real nice. It was kind of a sentimental kind of story.
It was a very nice little idea for a backup. I wasn't in love with the art, I will say.
No.
I did think it was a bit rough.
So that's Norm Rapman, who usually does inks for Dan Jurgens. So there's a very Jurgens-y style to it. It's just not as clean or as detailed.
Yeah, the worst panel is probably when Perry says, "Where's Lois?" to Clark, and he just sort of you get one panel of what she's doing, and she's as Superwoman fighting some like dinosaur men or whatever, and the body proportions and the way she's twisting as she's throwing this punch is just monstrous. Like her boobs are sticking out at a right angle from what her waist is at. Like her entire upper body is turned completely 90 degrees. It's weird.
Apparently, super flexibility became a thing when she got the powers.
Very good.
You know?
So yeah, art's a bit ropey, but it's a nice little light. I genuinely, because it was sort of thing where I got to this, and it was another thing here. Is this like a preview for something? And
yeah,
I skipped ahead a few pages to sort of glance at it to see, is this an actual thing to read? And then I was like, oh no, it is. It's just a backup. All right, I guess I'll give it a go. So yeah, interesting extra thing to slip in. But there you go. All right, Matt, what are you giving Action Comics?
I'm gonna give this I'll also give this a straight 8.
It's so weird because there's like 2 backups in this issue and there's so much to consider. But yeah, I mean, I think about an 8 is like, probably just about an 8. I was thinking in my head maybe a 7.5, just for, you know, the Keenan and Connor story maybe feeling a little bit like. No, repetitive's not even the right word, but just in the way that we always get the same amount of pages, it always feels like the same kind of stilted amount of it.
Redundant.
Yeah, but the main story had a good cliffhanger. Supergirl backup still really solid. Yeah. All right, there you go. 8 out of 10.